right, you want to know how to stop binge eating? Stop looking at Uber Eats. Stop scrolling on your phone. Stop Googling the businesses on Google Maps, looking at their photos and scrolling through what they have to offer visually. All of that is putting you down the path to peril. Think of it like a scab. If you're trying to heal a wound, a la your addiction or your binge triggers, and you continue to pick at that scab because you're trying to stimulate yourself visually with either the pictures, the videos, or the memories of these places that you go to try to get some type of solace with your emotions, right? Because that's what a lot of this stuff is about. It's about comforting ourselves emotionally with this food, because whether it brings us back to a past memory, it taps into something in our unconscious mind, or just takes us away from the present moment. So oftentimes, when we're binging on food, that's usually the order of operations. Takes us back to a past memory, so that's comforting. Helps take us out of the present, or it's somehow instilling or feeding on something in the unconscious mind. All that comes down to us being vulnerable, us being emotionally fragile, us being human, okay, to be honest. But the things that we can do to prevent ourselves from getting into this situation is a system. And that's the key. Because let's say our goal is to not binge eat. Our goal is to not call, Uber Eats or Grubhub, Seamless, Chowhound, Postmates, any of them. Nothing against these companies. I love you guys. I love your riders, your delivery people, especially when I was living in New York and seeing the riders go out in the snow, in the rain, in the heat. The weather did not matter. My hat goes off to all of y'all up there. I used to actually, quick story, I used to use the delivery riders as a barometer to say whether I was going to ride a city bike sometimes in inclement weather, because I rode a city bike every day when I lived in Manhattan. And I would always say, like, well, if the riders are out here, like, I can be out here too. So if it was snowing and I saw the guys out delivering food, I'd be out there too. If it was raining and I saw them delivering food, I'd be out there too. Now, there were a couple of days where I said, hey, you guys are better than me. You can have it today. But nonetheless, mad respect to those people that feed us around the world and all the cities that we live in. Still, for us that are trying to battle food addiction or binge eating disorders, it's tough. It's a war. It's a fight, because oftentimes it's us alone. There's no family around. There's no friends. There's no loved one. And it's you with your thoughts, you with your own emotional turmoil, you with that anxiety, right? So how do you mitigate it? Well, this is what I do. Number one, like I said, delete the apps off your phone. Don't look at them. Don't go near them. And if you leave yourself an out or a back door to get to any of those apps, a la, okay, I deleted Uber Eats, but I still have Uber on my phone. Be careful. That's a slippery slope. That's, as someone accurately said recently, that's a wig on a pig, right? And a wig on a pig is usually not pretty. So if you leave yourself outs, you're playing with fire. If you start going into those apps and you're just looking at them like I would do and just say, okay, I'm kind of getting visually stimulated. I can almost sense the food. I'm kind of tasting it. And it would be a game that I would play with myself of, like, even loading the cart, adding items into the cart, and then trying to deny it. Well, guess what? If I got that far, you know how many times I would actually deny the order and not order it? Not a lot. I would say probably less than 30%. The other 70% plus, I would end up making the order and binge would happen. So, batting 300 is great in Major League Baseball, but when you're trying to beat something like a binge eating disorder and the only thing preventing you from doing it is adding items to a cart, or the significant difference you can have is not adding items to a cart, I would say freaking don't do that. Don't put yourself in the situation, Jake. So that's what I started doing right off the rip. Delete the apps, no outs allowed either. So I deleted, Uber Eats, I deleted Uber itself, so there was no delivery service anywhere near that. I wouldn't even have apps for like a restaurant that I'm a member to on my phone, because I wouldn't want to see it. I wouldn't want it to be there. I wouldn't have that ready and easy accessibility at my fingertips. So I removed it all. Then don't backdoor it looking through your browser. Don't use Safari, don't use Google Chrome to look at the place, see what's new on the menu, go to Google Maps and check out their reviews, look on their Instagram, because all that is doing is triggering embedded subconscious emotional responses. You are presenting your mind with a stimulus, and in response, there are hormonal there are hormones being triggered. Mainly cortisol, that's a big one. Stress, because you're in this flux of, I want to do that, but at the same time, I'm trying not to do that because it's something I don't want to do. So your mind almost doesn't know the difference. Your heart does, your emotion does, your conscience does. But your mind only knows, oh, stimulus, whoop, pump out the good stuff. Maybe even some insulin because we're preparing to consume it. Maybe some adrenaline or rather epinephrine or norepinephrine or oxytocin, the feel-good hormone, because, oh, we're about to get our brownie or our pizza or whatever it is. So like you're literally eliciting these hormonal responses because the brain doesn't know the difference. Your mind, or rather your heart and your conscience do. But to the brain, you've presented the stimulus required to elicit these hormonal responses. So whether it be oxytocin with that feel-good hormone, cortisol, kind of being stressed and the anxiety of, oh my God, should I do it? Should I not do it? What do I do? Adrenaline or epinephrine, norepinephrine, because man, you're getting excited about like having some of this stuff. And then insulin. Your body's actually releasing insulin in response to the incoming surge of sugar, refined sugar, processed carbohydrates. That's amazing. So you can literally work against not binge eating by just scratching and picking at that scab, like I was saying. You can literally work against weight loss by scratching and picking at that scab. Because when those hormones come out, when that insulin gets released, you are now in a negative state of weight loss, meaning your body is trying to retain calories, not burn them. So just with your mind and your thumbs and your kind of thoughts, you're creating a state of catabolism where you're not burning fat for fuel, you're not trying to preserve lean muscle mass, but rather your body is trying to store calories and preserve fat. How about them apples? So, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the strengths of our systems. If you don't have a system, like I did not have for a long time, and you try to summit to a goal, you're never going to get there because you're going to keep reaching at it, but you're going to keep getting pulled down because you don't have the system to support you. So for me right now, one of the things I've put this test really to is I'm working on a 100-day Lion Diet OMAD. So 100 days of the Lion Diet, 1 meal a day, OMAD. And it's taken me several goes at this to lock in my system because I kept falling in these pitfalls. And one of the biggest ones was not scrolling on the phone with the apps being open. Another one was not having TV in my bed by way of the laptop because the laptop would lead to scrolling and I would associate watching a movie or a documentary or something, whatever, and I needed food to do that. Causal relationships attached to emotion, response, order food, get it now, satisfy cravings and need. That's the depths of this stuff. So I understand you because I've been there. I've been diagnosed with binge eating disorder for this exact reason because of emotional fragility, right? And feelings of inadequacy and that comfort before bed was just so good. But again, when you're trying to battle something like that, it's not about rising to the level of the goal. It's about falling to the strengths of the system. So if your system is in place, whatever it might be, and if you need to, take out a pen and paper like I did and literally draw a T-chart of pros and cons. Maybe triggers versus consequences, right? Stimulus versus response. If this, then that. So for me, if I am watching TV in bed and I'm scrolling on my phone, high probability I'm gonna cave, straight up. So what did I start doing? No laptop in the bed, no scrolling on the phone in the bed, reading a book. That alone, freaking game changer. So if you take out your pen and your paper and you draw your T-chart of pros and cons or trigger and consequence, stimulus and response, see what you've got written down. And sometimes just looking at that will make you go, oh wow, like I can say 9 out of 10 times this because of that, or 5 out of 10 times this because of that. But when you see it, the proof can literally be in the paper. So remember that. We don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the strengths of our systems. And if you're trying to defeat binge eating disorder, you need to have a good system in place. Trust me.